computer speakers, or you can use the phone number on your screen and listen to us. Also, you can type in your questions at any time during the webinar, and we'll take them at the end. But for now, the attendees are in the mute mode. So here are our presenters for today. We have Rebecca Shaw, Senior Vice President of Energy with Stewards of Affordable Housing for the Future, or SAFE. She leads all of our energy and water projects. Then it's me, Ruchi Shah, Energy Associate at SAFE. And today we have with us our guest speaker, Dennis Hidalgo, Energy and Sustainability Manager at Volunteers of America. So here is the agenda for our webinar today. Becky will introduce you all to SAFE and our work. She'll also talk about the retrofit background and evolution of the tool. I will do a short demo, and Dennis will talk about a very interesting case study. And at the end, we'll have time for question and answers.
Great. So thank you, everyone, for joining the webinar on EZ Retrofit. I'd like to take a moment to introduce our organization, SAFE, which is a collaborative of 11 nonprofit housing organizations with a portfolio of over 115,000 affordable homes across the country. Each of our members is working towards a goal of reducing their energy and water consumption 20% by 2020. So we at SAFE help them with that goal by developing tools like EZ Retrofit. So now that you know a little about us, we'd like to know a little bit about you. We're going to open up our first poll and ask everyone on the call to self-identify as to what sector you work in. So you should be seeing an opportunity now to just click on one of these options. And if you are not one of the preset options, go ahead and tell us in the comment box kind of what work you do. How many people? Okay, it looks like so it looks like we've got mostly multifamily housing developers, which is the audience we first identified as being the users for this tool, and a good share of energy efficiency services professionals. So it looks like everyone on the call will try to get in something in this webinar for how the tool can work for you. So EZ Retrofit is an Excel-based audit tool, which is designed to be used by non-engineers or people who are not necessarily technical experts. Some of you may be familiar with the ASHRAE system for classifying audits. And EZ Retrofit is most comparable to a level 2 audit. It doesn't include the same level of review as is called for in a level 2, such as reviewing O&M practices, but it does provide detailed savings estimates and installation cost estimates for the 10 systems that it addresses. The diagram you see here shows the 10 systems addressed. So you can see that we've covered really a wide range of building systems, from appliances to more central heating and cooling systems, and a little bit on the air sealing and duct sealing side as well. So it's quite comprehensive. And the other good news is that this tool was developed under a grant from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and so it's freely available to everyone working on multifamily housing to try to improve their efficiency. The version we're sharing today is actually version 3 of EZ Retrofit. The first version, which included all of the core functionality, came out in June of 2014. Then this past year, we introduced version 2 with some additional new features. And now, the whistles and bells for version 3 include one of my favorite new features, our EZ Retrofit audit report that includes a discussion of non-energy benefits. So before we dive into the tool itself, we'd like to open our second poll to get a sense about your current familiarity with the tool. We have about 3/4 of the people having voted, so let's see how it all shakes out. It looks like most attendees are new users, but we have some who've seen the tool before and we're still absent the people who've already used EZ Retrofit. I guess they don't really need this webinar. Great.
So thanks, Becky, for sharing the EZ Retrofit background. Today, I'm going to talk about how EZ Retrofit works and take you all into the weeds of the tool. And I pretty much see that a lot of people are the first-time users, so I will keep that in mind moving forward. In simple words, think of EZ Retrofit as a 3-step process. The first being data collection. It's the big and the key step for EZ Retrofit. Multifamily properties are complicated, and it's not easy to collect data for all of the 10 categories that Becky just showed you in that beautiful graphic. So to simplify this process, we have built an EZ Retrofit checklist. This will help you a lot in your data collection process and make it easy. The second step is the data input and data entry. The tool requires basically 3 kinds of data. First is the building characteristics data, which is about the general information for your building. And the second is whole building utility data, tenant and owner paid data. And last but not the least, it's the data about your systems and equipment, which falls under those 10 categories. Now, once you have entered everything, you get to review the results and recommendations, which are pretty detailed, for energy and water conservation measures. And all of them are very specific to your own building. We'll go through all of them in detail in the later section. Now in the graphic in front of you, you see you have 2 options, which we call EZ Retrofit pathways. Easy path, which is colored in blue, and advanced path colored in orange. Since we are in the tax filing season, imagine Easy Path as your TurboTax model, where you enter minimum required information in a series of pop-up screens to get to the results that you want. The tool relies on default assumptions based on national multifamily housing data, as well as the inputs that you enter to generate recommendations, as I said earlier, specific to your building. EasyPath is designed for assessing buildings with relatively simple heating and cooling systems, while Advanced Path is built in a traditional Excel format where you can enter more detailed information about your building systems, or you have complex heating and cooling systems. So once you have entered data using any of the pathways, and if you switch the pathways, all of the data is automatically transferred. So say if you start with Easy Path and then go to Advanced Path, you will see that data being populated in the other pathway. Now, it's very easy to switch the pathways as well. So it's time to launch the tool. And the tool can be accessed on our SAFE website. And the checklist that I mentioned is also on our website and is within the tool itself. So I will open our very great tool. So I have just launched the EZ Retrofit version 3.0, and this is the first screen with the two options at the bottom for the pathways that we just discussed. Before moving forward, I just want to let everyone know that I'm using a tool file with pre-populated data for a multifamily property called Aspen Place, where we had done the testing. It's a property in Denver, Colorado. So let's get started with EZ Path. Again, here are a few more instructions that help you navigate through the EZ Path. So moving forward, here is the first general characteristics screen, and as the name suggests, you will be entering basic information about your building. And on top here, you see some buttons. I want to spend a few minutes to go over each of them. So when you are in the tool and you look at the data fields and you feel like why the tool is bothering me with all of these questions, then you can click on this "Did you know" button, and you'll find the reason. Also, if you are not sure on how to enter data for a specific input, you can click on "How do I do it" button, and it will take you to an in-depth user guide which is built on the back end of the tool, and it's also, again, uploaded on our website. So it will help you with detailed steps and also help you navigate throughout the pathways. Moving on to the next screen, which is the benchmarking screen. On this screen, you will enter your worth of utility data, both tenant and owner paid, depending on the type of your building and metering system, for all of the 4 fuels which is applicable to your building. So that's what the numbers you see here are specific to that Aspen Place property. I also want to let everyone know that the tool can be ran without entering utility data, though that is not my favorite option, because the power of EZ Retrofit lies in its calibration process, which is the tool on the back end runs complex calculations and takes into account the utility data you enter to generate as accurate results as possible specific to your building. So once you've entered the utility data, benchmarking score. As you can see here, the tool generates benchmarking score for your building by comparing it to a similar building of same size and same geographic area. And here there are two scores. One is for energy, and we call it site energy use intensity, and the other is site water use intensity. And these scores are basically a good indicator of the current efficiency of your building, and it also helps you to decide if you want to move further in the EZ Retrofit process or not. If your scores are way above the benchmarking building, you might not want to go through the entire process. So for this building, definitely there are some opportunities. Moving forward, the next screen is the envelope screen. And as you can see here, the questions are more about external building characteristics. And on the right side, there is a navigation panel in green with different icons, and they are for the 10 systems that we had looked at it earlier. So, and you can go to any of them by clicking on these icons. For now, for the demo purpose, I'm going to take you straight to one of my favorite water fixture screen. I'm going to click on this little faucet icon here. And we look at some of the questions on that screen and try to understand what basically the tool is looking for. Also, at times the tool runs complex calculations on the back end because it is calibrating, taking into account all of your inputs, so it takes a few seconds to get there. So here we have our screen for water fixtures. And these questions you see here are pretty much similar on each of the screens for the 10 systems, such as who pays for the utility bills, what is the type of fixture or system, and the location of that system or fixture. Also, the tool wants to know the quantity, the flow rate, and a bit more specifications about the system or the fixtures. So for water fixtures, as you can see under fixture type location, there is a drop-down, and here you can enter data for your faucets in your bathroom, faucets in kitchen, faucets in restrooms, and also shower heads. So there are several options here, and you can, for each of the systems, you can use this button called Add Another Water Fixture System and group them accordingly. So assuming that you have entered data for all of the 10 categories, you can review the results. And the last screen in terms of data entry is this water conservation. On this screen, mainly the tool is looking at the information about your toilet. And the questions are, again, pretty much on the same lines. So it's time to look at the results and understand the different functionalities. So at this point, actually, you have two options to view the results. One is Results All Measures, the button that you see here on the right. Basically, the tool generates, taking into account all of your inputs, a set of all of the potential energy and water conservation measures, all in one big table. But if you have your own goals, your criteria, specific needs in mind, you can select this second option, which is Results Select Criteria. And I'm going to click on that and explain what that actually means. There are some great metrics we have built in here. So, for example, for this property, I want to review only those measures that are going to impact owner savings. So I've selected the option called Owners. Then there are several criteria the tool allows you to enter. They are about cost savings, energy savings, water savings, payback period, and more. So here I'm going to select Measure Payback and use this slider at the bottom to select 8 years. That means I only want to view results or the measures that will have a payback of no more than 8 years. And I'm going to sort that. You have more options to sort the results. So I'm going to use the cost savings option here because these two are important to me. So once you have selected, you can run the calculations. Because this is the demo file, I have already run the calculations. So I'm going to select now. And the tool is, again, using its engine on the back end to generate the results. OK, so here we have a table with only those measures, which by that I mean recommendations, which has a payback of no more than 8 years. So on the right, you can see the payback period, and none of them are greater than 8 years. Also, for each of the recommendations, as you can see, we have a lot of columns here, and which are very helpful for your decision-making process because it tells you a lot about savings for each of the fuel, also installation cost, which is great. It helps people to decide what they would want to pursue, and has some other metrics. Also at the bottom, there is a nice summary table which breaks out the savings for different fuels. In our case, we just selected owner, so we see the values for the owner. But otherwise, we can see the savings for tenants as well. Now, while we are on the Results Select Criteria screen, I also want to talk about a few more new features that we added in version 3.0, which is Generate Audit Report button, the button you see at the top. This is really our favorite here. So if you click on this button, it will generate an actual narrative report in a Word or PDF format. So I have that open here, and I'm going to share that with you. This is our audit report. And it will be, again, very customized, specific to your building. And the report basically summarizes all of the information in a very easy to understand format. So you can share this with your colleagues, with your contractors, or your people in the organization to discuss the results. And we have this great dashboard called EZ Dashboard, and it again summarizes all of the savings, opportunities, costs. It also has some graphs which helps you understand what will be your pre and post retrofit usage numbers for energy and water. Like for this building, you can see the post, it has potential to reduce 18% in terms of energy and 11% on water. So going back to the tool, this was one way of looking at the results. Now we'll also look at the results, the master results, which we call here results all measures. Here is the button. And by now, all of you might have guessed that we are in the advanced path because this is the traditional Excel format that I was talking about. And basically, after the water conservation screen, you can imagine both the pathways, they kind of converge, and you get into the advanced path automatically. So on this screen, you see a big list of results, which is potentially all of the possible energy and water savings measures that can be done at your building. And they are very detailed, have all the metrics on the right side. It also has an impact summary table which summarizes by each of the end use, like for heating and cooling systems, for clothes washers, and others. On this screen, we have more interesting buttons and functionalities as well. So apart from the audit report, we have a button here called Results Graph. If you click on that, it will have lots of graphs, and it will help you understand the pre versus post retrofit implications for the fuels for different end users. Then there is a button for Export to New Workbook. If you click on that, it will export all of the results and graphs into a separate Excel sheet. So then you are free to do your own analysis, and you can use it the way you want. There is also this very new and interesting functionality here, combined with other buildings, the button right here. Because the EZ Retrofit tool is like per building basis tool, so if you have multiple buildings at a property and you want to combine all tool files, you can use this button and have a full scope for the property. And then there's a button to print all of the results. Now, since we are in the advanced path, I would like to show you some of the additional powerful features and the flexibility that can be accessed in the advanced path. So let's go to the clothes washer screen, and I'm using the navigation panel on the left here in the advanced path. And in this screen, the table you see in green, which is called the current clothes washer characteristics, this is the table for data entry. So basically here you enter data about your clothes washer. At this building, they have 3 clothes washer in common area, and they're non-Energy Star. Then if you go on the right side, there is one more table, which is the current system specifications table. And it has some more specifications about those clothes washers. But the good part about the tool is you don't have to enter any data here. Based on your input of the first table, the tool will have all of these assumptions pre-populated. So here, I just want to take one example and show you how it works. So here you can see the rated electricity consumption for your clothes washers. The tool is assuming that it's 538 kilowatt hours per year. But when you did your building walkthrough and when you collected data for all the systems, you found that actually your washers are not that great. They are using 768 kilowatt hours annually. So you can go back into the tool, and under the last column called specification source, where you see EZ Retrofit assumptions, change it to user inputs. Then you can click user inputs, the button in yellow on the very right. Click on that, and you can see a similar table here, but here you are allowed to enter your data. So you can put in 736 here, and then go back to the main screen. And when you see here, now the tool is taking into account your value, and the and the true consumption of your washers. So you have the ability to change default assumptions for a lot of the systems where you have more specific data. And I also want to highlight one more feature, which we call it as you can change your cost assumptions. So as you saw in the results screen, the tool is estimating installation costs for the retrofits that it's recommending. So in this case, in the table below, the table in blue which says savings, you can see the tool is recommending to replace those non-Energy Star washers with Energy Star versions. And it is providing here you with the savings estimates, the total install cost estimates, which is $2,000. Now, say you
muted.
We had some glitch here, but coming back to the presentation, if you work with contractors or if you're aware of any rebates on clothes washers and you want to change the cost, you can do that. So in our example here, the tool is assuming $2,000 for 3 Energy Star washers, which is $666 per washer, right? But you know there is a rebate of $100 per washer. I'm just making this up. So the net cost would be $1,600 for 3 washers. Now you really want the tool to take into account the true value that you know. So you can go back to the advanced tab, go back to this blue table in the column which says users net cost estimates. So you can put in your cost as $1,600, for example. You can put in your notes like a rebate of $100, or the way you want to put it. And then you'll see here the tool is taking into account the new cost, the actual cost which you're going to pay. So these are some of the very useful and powerful features, I think, which makes EZ Retrofit really unique in the market. Also, last but not the least, I want to talk about one more important feature. And again, it's a new feature, version 3.0 feature. It's about a button called Custom Measure. So some users, when they used version 1 and version 2, they also felt that, and it was specific to their area, to their buildings, that they wanted to look at a scope beyond the 10 systems addressed by the tool. And they can use this custom measure button and enter some more systems and specifics about them. And in the results section, they can view all of that full scope in one table. So I think that is very useful where you're assessing things beyond the 10 systems. So now I'm going to pass it to Dennis to go over an interesting case study and learn how he used the tool.
So Dennis, are you able to talk into the phone and be heard, or do you need to unmute yourself?
Okay, there it is. I can unmute myself. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Okay, no problem. So at Volunteers of America, we have worked with SAFE. Partially, we run the EZ Retrofit tool on 4 buildings, and primarily early on, a lot of it was to get a general assessment, but really for the sake of testing out the tool, we chose out some properties. Embassy House Apartments in Shreveport was the first case where we saw the benefits of the tool and the potential for it to be used in our portfolio, and this was really the first opportunity that we came across where it was just the perfect solution. So Embassy House had received a grant from Home Depot where they were going to receive money for a series of improvements on the property. And among those improvements for them to qualify for the funding were energy related. So I got a call from the property manager and from the housing director in Louisiana for us, and they spoke to me asking essentially, look, explain the situation and wanted to get an idea of what can we possibly do with the property. Now, we have a big portfolio, and as the manager, I work at the national office, so I'm not familiar with the ins and outs of a particular property. So the first thing that popped in my head was, well, if we need to do this and we want to maximize the amount of grant funds that we can use and not spend any of it on energy audit, the EZ Retrofit tool was the perfect opportunity. It was the perfect tool for us to use because it let us do the work in-house, be able to take information that we already have at the property and come up with calculations and recommendations for improvements to do. So what we did was, with the assistance from SAFE, a lot of the information is at the property level. So people at the property and assistance from people at SAFE, they went through, entered the information, filled out the tool. I got the report, and essentially what we got was a scope. And for the sake of the funding, what they did was break down the recommendations and the scope into different tiers. First tier was really just your low-hanging fruit, things that, based on the information given and costs, were easy to replace and would have a good amount of impact. So as you see here, the Tier 1 scope, which was implemented near the end of the last year, it was a lot of the simple things that you typically come across: your shower heads, aerator, toilet, and insulation, and lighting. So these are a lot of things that you commonly come across. But for us to really understand the impact and what was really worth doing, the tool really broke that down for us and made it easy for us to make this decision, made it clear, and gave us an idea of what the potential savings, cost, and energy were going to be. So we broke it up into Tier 1, which is really just done right away with the funding. Tier 2 is something that they're working on doing shortly after. And then a third tier of things a few things that were kind of seen that were outside of the scope of energy retrofit, but just seen on site upon a visit. But it's really allowed us to kind of break down, understand what specific recommendations, what specific improvements we can make at a property, and how to break it down based on cost and understand which ones can be done now and which ones can be done later. So it was really helpful because it kind of allowed us to take charge. We weren't dependent on someone else performing the audit. All the information was on hand, and it gave us a really good breakdown of what was feasible at a certain time. Excuse me. So, so far the recommendation has been done. One of the things we're really looking forward to is kind of seeing how this compares to how the actual results compared to what we're seeing on the EZ Retrofit tool. The costs were right in line from my recollection when I saw the quote. So far it's given us a really good idea of what we need to do. And I think this is something really that as we start moving forward, and it'll really be a combination of finding opportunities like this that sort of pop up and we see, okay, this is a great opportunity for us to use this tool and get an assessment. And also, as we collect more data and benchmark our own properties and understand how properties are performing, we can really start using this based on need. When we see properties that are underperforming, we can implement the tool and start getting some recommendations and understanding what improvements we can make and get a general idea of impact and cost so we can properly assess how feasible it is on any given property. So for us, it's been really helpful, and we really plan on using this moving forward in the future because it's fast and it's very extensive result.
All right, thanks so much, Dennis. So you've heard a little bit about how EZ Retrofit has been useful to a multifamily owner. And we did design it specifically for that kind of a case, for a standalone retrofit. We also have heard from our members who have used this as a tool for larger rehabilitation projects. So where they're not necessarily doing just an energy scope, but trying to get projections on the cost savings for the energy work that they're doing to help them, set their operational budgets. So it's been useful in a wide range of contexts for owners doing retrofits. We've also heard from auditors and energy efficiency professionals that EZ Retrofit is a really good fit for serving their multifamily clients. So it's somewhere, like we were saying, in between that ASHRAE level 1, just a walkthrough with some basic understanding, and it's not the kind of modeled, super detailed audit that is sometimes overkill for the types of buildings that we serve. So we're very interested in how the tool would fit into other energy efficiency programs. We think this is a good audit option that can lower that upfront cost of getting the audit done while providing really detailed and quality information for organizations implementing multifamily efficiency programs, whether that's a utility, a government agency, a lender, or some other kind of funding agency. So we did have a kind of summary of the tool that we want to go over for you.
Sure. So definitely, if you're a first-time user, I just want to reiterate, start with easy path, and then you can always transition to advanced path. Also, as Becky had said earlier, this tool is designed keeping in mind non-technical, non-engineers, but even though it has the basic level functionality, it has some powerful features that we just saw, and I'm reiterating some of them. The tool calibrates results based on utility bills. I think this is a great feature. It also allocates savings to owners and tenants, and this is kind of addresses split incentives, also helps you better understand the rebate scenarios. For example, where you're having great rebates for tenants, and you should definitely look into some of the tenant-specific measures. This allows users to override baseline and cost assumptions, like just we saw for a clothes washer. And also the tool provides multiple options to view results and to conduct analysis. For some of the Excel-savvy people like me, they can do a lot in the advanced path. Also, if you have very specific criteria in mind and don't want to look at the full list of results, you can use the select criteria as we looked at. And also, I would also suggest before even using the tool, just take a look at the checklist so you get a more comprehensive understanding of the data points that the tool is looking at, and the user guide. The user guide is really detailed, has in-depth descriptions about each and every field and how to get data, how to enter data, and more information. Also in the user guide, for those who are really interested in getting into the savings, back-end algorithms of the tool, what the tool is assuming, we have an appendix called Technical Guide, and we have openly listed, because it's an open source tool, listed all of the assumptions, algorithms, and data sources that we have used to build the tool. So that's a great section in the user guide as well. And as I said, it's open source, so the tool can be definitely customized based on your specific needs. And last but not the least, Becky is going to talk about some of the great resources that we have developed.
All right. So thank you, everyone, for attending this. We hope that the next step for you is to visit our website and download the EZ Retrofit tool. On the page for EZ Retrofit, you'll see not only the tool, which is a rather large Excel file, you'll also see some supporting documentation. The user guide is both embedded in the tool and available for download off the website. Same thing with the data collection checklist. They're there for you on the website. They're also inside the tool. Unique to the website, we do have a couple of case studies. There's a different Volunteers of America property than the one that you heard about today, also in detail on the web, and some frequently asked questions about using the tool, and a couple of video tutorials. So we've got a lot of resources on our website. And the other thing that you will be getting as follow-up is that GoToWebinar is going to be sending out a survey to ask for your thoughts on the webinar and on the tool. We will be looking at those responses and using them to help us improve our service delivery for the multifamily sector. So please do let us know what you think.